Hey, I'm hoping some people will watch this, and I hope that it will cause some people to start thinking. Yes, I'm driving home from work, and I've been thinking very intently about this topic today, but it's been on my mind a lot for the last couple of weeks. In particular, I did a video in the series that I've been doing on my podcast channel on YouTube about defining a good cop, but I'm directing this now at the mindset of the conservative base, the traditional, more actually grounded conservatives out there. And in my post earlier today, I had made the statement that conservatives have been in that back the blue camp at all costs, no matter what. And I said, you reap what you sow. You've made your bed, conservatives. Now you got to lie in it. Hey, Jose. And that goes for conservative libertarians and you know the Mises caucus types of libertarians who I love, and others who aren't exactly Mises caucus types, but the people who have traditionally been, hey, I'm law and order and I'm for the good cops and whatnot. And I am too. I'm for cops. I'm for true laws and true order, which is the Constitution, by the way. But I need to say something. I have had numerous conversations with people over the last couple of weeks. Numerous conversations. This isn't directed at one particular person. This isn't directed at a select group of individuals. This is directed at people who would consider themselves conservative, who would consider themselves Christian, who would consider themselves biblically based, who would consider themselves non-Christian but pro-law enforcement, non-Christian but law and order, agnostics, atheists, whatever. Here's the deal, conservatives. Here's what's going on. I've been getting a lot of comments like, I'm trying to maintain my relationship with law enforcement. I'm trying to keep myself in the good graces of law enforcement. I'm trying to, I need to be able to keep the lines of communication open. I don't want to rock the boat with my local constabulary. I don't want to upset my local police department. I don't want to upset my local sheriff's office. I don't want to upset the sheriff or the chief of police or the deputies or the rank and file beat cops. BS! It's not your job or your responsibility to stay in the good graces of law enforcement. That doesn't mean you don't follow legitimate laws. It means that you don't need to bend over backwards to keep them happy. I'm sick of hearing it, but I don't want to upset them. I don't care if they're upset. That's why people get wrongfully arrested. It's why people end up getting wrongfully charged for things, because they believe that that's their job to keep the cop happy. It's their job to keep the local law enforcement organization in a good mood. No, it's not your job to do that. You don't have to keep them happy. You don't have to keep them in a good mood. Your job as a citizen is to hold the cops accountable. Period. End of story. Your job as an American citizen, as a republic-loving, not democracy, as a republic-loving citizen, as a member of these numerous states, of these several states, is to hold the rank and file and the supervisory staff of every law enforcement organization to the fire. Because they are the ones, they are the armed enforcement wing of the state. Whether it be your municipal state, your city state, your county state, the state, or the federal state. They need the most scrutiny all the time. They need the scrutiny. They need to be under the watchful eye of the citizenry. And they need to be making the effort to stay in your good graces, not the other way around. Stop being mealy-mouthed, panty-waisted, milquetoast pushovers who think it's your job to get along with the police. No, it's not. Every interaction that you have with law enforcement should be this. Them walking up to you and saying, hey, thanks for being a citizen. How can I serve you today? Or some variant thereof. You break the law, you do the time. You pay the fines, but you fight it in court, by the way. It doesn't hurt, doesn't cost you to fight a traffic ticket. It doesn't, you want to pay it because you know you're guilty, fine, but make them prove it every single time. I am sick and freaking tired of listening to my fellow conservatives, paleo-cons and trad-cons and Mises cons, and yes, there is a Mises conservative wing of the Republican Party, by the way. And Republicans and even the neocons and the normie cons out there, I'm sick and tired of hearing, so no, I got to stay on the good side. I got to make sure that I don't do anything to upset them. I want you to think about why that is. Why do you need to stay on their good side? Why? Are you afraid that if you don't stay on the good side of law enforcement that they're not going to come to your aid when you need it? If that's the way you're thinking, and by the way, my windows are up and it's hotter than heck in here and I can't run my air. But think about that. If your whole reason for staying on the good side of law enforcement is because you are afraid they're not going to serve you, you've got a problem. And it's not you. It's your local law enforcement. If you think you need to stay on their good side because if you don't stay on their good side, they're going to come for you, you got a bigger problem. That's a huge problem. Think about that. Steep in it for a while, okay? Think about it. I know of a situation in a county way out in western Minnesota, right on the border of Minnesota and North Dakota, where there is a county employee who is on the run, not because she's broke any laws, but because she's holding the local sheriff accountable for his bad actions. And you know what's happening? They're harassing the hell out of her. This county employee had to go to a neighboring county last night to seek assistance from law enforcement because of what's going on. But if she would have just kept her mouth shut and stayed on the good side of the sheriff's office, everything would have been fine. She wouldn't be doing this, having to do this. Think about that. I know of another situation where individuals are literally seeing their livelihood potentially stripped from them because they run afoul of a political system, and that political system is weaponizing law enforcement against them. And now they have potential charges hanging over their heads. And if they so much as teeter the boat, rock the boat, one way or the other, they could end up getting, these charges could actually end up getting advanced. Think about it. And I'm talking about conservative people here, law-abiding folks, people who have been back the blue. I got to stay on their good side. I'm not upset with these people who have been conditioned to think this way. What I'm upset about is the fact that these oath takers, these people who swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States of America and to the Constitution of the state of Minnesota and the other several states, these people take an oath. Damn it. And the people who have supported them the most of them for their entire lives, are terrified of them. They're terrified of the repercussions. We're not supposed to be scared of the cops. We've been supporting these bastards. I've stood outside of law enforcement agencies with a sign that said police lives matter, law enforcement lives matter. I have bought lunch for these people. I have bought dinner for these people. I have bought coffee for these people over and over and over and over again. And my friends and my allies in the Patriot movement in Minnesota and across this entire... And now they're being weaponized against us. I have friends who are on the wrong side of law enforcement. I have friends who are on the wrong side of law enforcement right now, not because they're criminals, but because they have run afoul of the system and they have stood up and said, enough is enough, I'm not going to take anymore. And county boards and city councils and school boards and over and over and over again, political parties and political opponents are weaponizing law enforcement against people to silence them. And the vast majority of the cops are going along with it. And you guys want to worry about, I want to stay in the good graces of the local police because my local police are the good guys. All the bad stuff is happening over there. It's over there. It's in another county. It's in another jurisdiction. That's happening in places like California. That's happening in places like New York. That's happening in places like Chicago and Illinois, where, you know, those other places. No, it's happening to you. It's happening to you. And trust me, I know about relationship risk too. I know how much this can affect people. And I'm over caring about it. You are not responsible for maintaining a good relationship with law enforcement. There should be no fear of that. If you have to pull your punches, if you have to not speak out, if you can't hold somebody accountable, if you can't name somebody by name, if you can't ask somebody in law enforcement to speak out publicly about something at all, if you can't do that because you're afraid that that's going to hurt your relationship with local law enforcement, if you're afraid that speaking out is going to bring hell down on you, you're not the problem. The cops are the problem. And I got news for you, America. I have news for you, citizens of this republic. The only way that changes is if we all get less afraid of the repercussions and we start fighting it, even if it means our discomfort. But God damn it, people, get your heads out of your derrieres and stop kowtowing to people because they have a badge, a gun, and a uniform. In the 12 and a half years that I worked for the Olmsted County Sheriff's Office, I never walked into a housing unit and said, you're going to obey me because I have a taser, pepper spray, and I have a badge. I went in and I treated people with respect. And there were times where that backfired on me. There were times when I had to be the bad guy. And there were times I made mistakes. There were times I said things I shouldn't say. But I was man enough to apologize for it. But we have been so beaten into this idea, twisted into this idea, shaped into this idea that somehow as conservatives, it's our job to back the blue at all costs. Somehow we have to keep the relationship on good ground. No, it needs to end. The cops need to be bowing to us. We are the government. We are in charge. They work for us. And I am not about worrying about whether or not I keep a good relationship with them. They need to be worried about what I think about them. Every single person in uniform, to include my family members and to include my good friends, they need to be worried about what the public thinks of them. and less worried about what their bosses think of them, and less worried about what the senior ups and all of that do. They need to be less worried about that and more worried about what we think of them and what we say about them publicly. If we could flip that script, damn it, if we could get them to start being afraid of the law enforcement Yelp review that they'll get if they act like an ass in a traffic stop, then maybe, just maybe, we could salvage things. But I got news for you. The vast majority of people, even the people on my friends list who consider themselves conservatives, who consider themselves patriotic, republic-loving Americans, who believe in the Constitution, you're too happy with your comfort. You're too happy with your comfort. You're too damn worried about what happens if you lose everything, and I got news for you. I worry about that every freaking day. And I'm done. And I don't care if this pisses you off. Stop kowtowing to the cops. Stop thinking it's your job to be pacifistic and not aggressive, but just the pacified little sheep when you're dealing with them or talking to them. If the only way the cops are on your side is if you are so far up their rear ends that if they take a hard left, it'll break your nose off, then you don't have a police force. You have jailers. You don't have law enforcement. You have an occupying force. And most of us, we're dealing with an occupying force now. That's the truth. Far too many of us, we don't have cops, citizens on patrol. We have an occupying army in our neighborhoods. And we have to stop being worried about whether or not they, like us, they need to be worried about whether or not they're doing their jobs and what we're going to say about them. I'm not worried about maintaining a relationship with any of them. They need to maintain a good relationship with me. Period. And I am a non-aggressionist. I am not for violence. So don't hear me calling for violence. You think this is about violence and you think your answer is violence, you're the problem. And you probably deserve whatever you get. But stop. Here's one. When you get pulled over and you get that ticket and the cop walks away, don't say thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Why? Stop cooperating. By being a good little servant to the servants. Like I said, if you have to work to maintain your good relationship with them and not the other way around, they're not cops. They're an occupying army. Now ask yourself, when you see your local cop, do you go, oh crap? Or do you say, that's a good guy? And if you don't know how to define what a good cop is, go check out the series Defining a Good Cop on my channel. Because it's not what you think it is. I'm over it. I'm over it. Jose, the fact that you just said I always tell them I will see you in court and I normally win all my tickets, you might want to change your driving habits. Just saying, bro. It's not your job to maintain a good relationship with law enforcement. It's not your job to be nice and sweet. I'm not saying be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. You don't need to be a jerk. No need to be a jerk at all. But stop being sheepishly compliant to the point where you are not responsible for making sure that you're not saying anything to upset them. If they get upset because you hold them accountable, they're in the wrong line of work and they're far past their sell-by date. They need to worry about staying in our good graces. because I'm not going to be subservient to an occupying force in my own neighborhood anymore. You need to think about this. I don't care who this upsets. I don't care who family, friends, longtime acquaintances. I don't care if this upsets you. Not my problem. Get thicker skin. Conservatives are supposed to be known for having thicker skin and being able to take tough talk. This is tough talk. The reason we're having problems all over this country right now, the reason why governors and presidents are being able to pull the crap they're pulling, is because we've sat back for far too long and been far too silent. Wake up, America. Your local law enforcement officer, there might be a few good ones, but the leadership is probably corrupt. And if you have to work to maintain a relationship with corrupt leadership, you have a big problem in your neighborhood. And I dare you to think about this. Ask yourself why you need to stay on the good side of law enforcement. And for anybody who hears this and thinks I'm talking about you, and I did use some real world examples, this isn't directed at you because I'm not directing it at somebody. But if this steps on your toes, inward reflection might be really important for you right now. I love my conservative friends, and I love my liberty-loving friends enough to say we need to change how we think about law enforcement. Stop assuming automatically that they're on your side. Because when it comes time for them to come and get your guns, when it comes time for them to come and silence you in a public meeting, when it comes time for them to get weaponized against you because you don't say the right thing about somebody in city council or county commission or the library board or the school board or whatever, they're not going to call the janitor. They're not going to call a teacher to come remove you. They're going to call a big guy with a badge, handcuffs, taser, pepper spray, and a gun. Or they're going to call one of the new 87,000 weaponized IRS agents who, applying for the Criminal Investigation Division, have to be willing to use lethal force. Why? You know what? This isn't the fault of the left. We've created this monster, conservatives. This is our fault. We did this. All of us, and I'm as guilty of it as the rest of you. I'm done. No matter who it alienates, no matter who it upsets. Fight for your liberties, they're yours. Fight for your freedom, it belongs to you. Sic Semper Tyrannis.